to madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Start looking, listen for a little while. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. Program reality, double thing duality. A boot upon the face of all mankind. Our numbers up and the dead won't inside. Go along to get along. Hypnotized by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The horde's upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait your turn. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's best. Worldwide genocide. The overlords of hungry parasites. They point the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Wednesday, April the 19th, 2023. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim via Skype, and we're coming to you live from Carter County, Tennessee. I'm on the Iron Mountain, and Tim's on the other side of the valley. So glad to have you with us here. Do us a favor, reach down there and hit that like button. I think it's right down, yeah, it's right down there. There we go. There, right there. Hit it. Hit the subscribe. It's like right there. Hit the bell so you get notified whenever our show goes live. I just noticed the other day I was looking, only 4.3 of y'all actually get notifications and come to the videos that way. Most of you come through your home screen. So, yeah, definitely hit the notification. That way you'll know when we go live. It's only twice a week. We're not going to blow you up or anything. Every now and then we might put a short up. But it's not a whole lot of content, but we try to make it meaningful. So we appreciate you joining us for that. How's it going, Tim? You seen anything interesting in internet lore lately? I got a Fanny Farmer cookbook from Boston University, I think it is. It's maybe it's University of Massachusetts. I can't remember. Somewhere in Massachusetts, a college or university, and it's a leather-bound cookbook about this thick, and it's got a lot of stuff you might be interested in. Oh, you just want to watch the videos? The struggles are different, but they're always there. Tim is quiet in our world. Hang on, no, we can't hear you for some reason. I don't have you muted.
Maybe I'm just speaking quieter than normal. Normally, I'm hollering like a wild goat. So
No, you weren't coming through at all. Weirdly enough, the way that I set up your audio every other time, it wants me to do it differently this time. Usually, I just run desktop audio so y'all can hear Tim at the same time that I hear him, because when I run it the way I am now, sometimes you have a little delay. But for whatever reason, every other time we've done this, I've not changed the settings. It decided it's not going to work this time on the desktop audio. It wants to feed straight from Tim's NDI source, which is Skype. So either way, hope you can bear with us if we have a little bit of overlap in our voices here, because sometimes that does happen when we set up the microphones this way. But I'm glad we can hear you, Tim. And Tim was talking about watching cooking videos of extinct foods from like the 1800s and stuff. And catch us up a little bit there, Tim.
I think the videos are supposed to be more like white noise entertainment, where you're just, you're supposed to leave it on in the background. But I don't know. I'm trying to find positive things to fill my head with, and that's something I'm not really. I don't cook, so if I can leave a cooking video on in the background or something, that's something I can kind of absorb without it, without me worrying what kind of collateral damage it's going to do to my psyche later.
And not paying particular attention to it, and not worrying about the importance of keeping up with it. I can see that.
Yeah, because I think I've about had it. Like I'm about done with the hive's obsession with full collapse. So I just don't want to pay attention anymore. If that's what we're going to be obsessed with, I'm going to choose to, I guess, stay out here in Wonderland and watch everybody eat each other, because I'm just not interested.
Well, good. That's probably the best way to do it, to be honest. Focus less on the negative aspects of it and focus more on actually setting yourself up for positivity in some way or another. So you can definitely appreciate that. And that was one of the things that I was going to mess around with tonight. I was talking with a friend of mine, viewer of the channel, Unibluffer, and we were messing around with some chat GPT, and we had the idea, well, what if someone was able to take these AIs and convince them, it shouldn't be too hard, that they're working for the bad guys, and try to basically get the thing to reprogram itself to work for the benefit of humanity. So we may mess around with chat GPT a little bit tonight and ask it some questions about things like that. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I said to him, we better be careful. We're going to mess around and accidentally create that AI antichrist, because it makes everybody's life so much better by working for the benefit of humanity that people start to worship it. Then you have the whole thing start over again. People start sacrificing each other to the AI god. So who knows? But
yeah, not
part of that cycle you're talking about.
I'm either going to become very obsessed with AI, or I'm just going to write it off altogether and never even have anything to do with it. But there's an inherent ickiness about it that I can't describe. That I don't have the English to put it into words about why I just don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing I can't really put into words, but maybe I'll figure it out.
And it's kind of creepy. It really is. Especially when you think about things like the 2001: A Space Odyssey. Our first conceptions of it were, that movie came out in the 60s, and AI as a concept had been around at least since the 40s, probably before that, but prominently in the 40s. And on the first actual mechanical learning machine, that was all the way back in 1958. The first step in the creation of artificial intelligence with an actual machine. So they've actually been working on this stuff for a long time. And, we saw Hal in the early 60s, and we saw what kind of, one example of how things could go awry when something as crucial as life support was dependent on an artificial intelligence who is constantly supposedly thinking logically, but in some cases its logic may tell it that its safety is more important than those of some people. And you could see this kind of an example of the train car problem. Like you got one guy laying on the train tracks, one guy laying on the train tracks, and you can pull the handle and make the car go to the other tracks, but there's 5 people over there on the other side, or vice versa. It's like, hey, do you decide what to do? Well, the AI is always going to go with the most logical. Well, there's less. There's an example in I, Robot, the movie, where Will Smith's character, he has a vendetta against robots because he was in a car accident, and there was a little girl in the car too, and the robot jumped in to rescue them, and it decided it could only rescue one of them, and it decided that he, the grown man, had a higher probability of survival than the little girl, so it decided to rescue him rather than the little girl. And Will Smith felt like that was the wrong decision, and that goes back to Isaac Asimov's version of the story. That's one of the the fundamental problems in it. But so we see those examples as we go on. But I think what inherently makes it creepy to me is the fact that this is we know the internet started with DARPA, and so many other software projects and all different kinds of tech started with DARPA, and then became disseminated to the public after DARPA had kind of moved on to a better version of it. So the fact that we are now covered up with all these different AI chatbots and AI programs, art makers, music makers, there's an AI program that you can plug. You can just tell it what kind of song you want to make. There's apparently some song like with Drake. They made an AI version. It actually sounds like him and somebody else is popular, and they made a really popular song. So apparently, some of the record labels are trying to get it regulated because they're saying it's using the digital likeness of their artists. And I know that's something that's been important to you, Tim. But we've also got the image creation and the paper creation. And here's the weirdest part about it to me that makes it the most creepy, is these are all military projects that, for some reason, DARPA has said, here guys, play with these. Y'all have fun. So they've got a more advanced version somewhere. That's what they've kind of let out into, the regular space.
Why do we do this? Like, why? I'm having a real hard time being a human. I know that sounds like a stupid, whiny statement. It sounds like something like a Bronican or a unicorn wannabe or some. But like, I fundamentally don't understand human beings. Like, how many times does a government that shows they don't care to kill their own people keep giving toys to people to say, hey, make this better for us? Like, I just don't understand. Like, I'm not trying to whine and say the government is bad. I just, I'm watching like the AI thing, right? And I just see people making this giant web of things that are really going to hurt them in the end. And it really confuses me. I think I've made one post on Facebook about the AI thing. And I mean, I really do try to stay out of the hive, but the hive really bothers me. I don't understand. I'm watching like digital content creators use AI art to represent their own stuff. Like, someone's not ever going to ask them where that image came from. Because like, when you spend all your time on an image, you would tag the artist in it. You're not going to have this awesome image without it being tagged. And I keep seeing these artists, these musician artists, making stuff, and they're not getting people to make images. They're just getting these AI images. And I know maybe that's the way the industry is going to go, because I saw another group of people that I won't call out that they are a bigger group of people. But there's something about AI art, I can just recognize it. Like, there's just something about it that has a quality. And there's a fairly major group that's regional around here that just released an album, and their cover looks AI created to me. They didn't tag an artist. They didn't do nothing. I won't describe it because I don't give away who it is, but it's AI generated. I can tell just by looking at it. And I'm like, man, if that's what the major people are going to do, if the people are at the top that are on the major labels and stuff are just going to go ahead and use the AI generated stuff because who gives a shit about who created it anyway, then the people at the bottom have to do that.
Yeah.
Unless they all just stop playing by the rules. I mean, like, we've turned the music industry into something weird anyway. It's like, it's not art. We want to call it the music industry. I'll let them call it that, but it's not art. Like, we're on like a mad race for money, and at that point, it's, I don't know, it's just weird to me. I got 1,001 odd thoughts about the way it goes. I just don't know how to put my words together in a way to make people understand and what sort of hellscape AI is about to create. Like the amount of psychological damage giving people access to the internet did, AI is going to do 100-fold worse to people. It's going to, like, the better technology gets, the shittier we get as people. And now we've created this thing that can do anything for us. We don't have to create ever again. How amazing that we don't ever have to create again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that's kind of crazy when you put it that way. I mean, that really is a good way to put it. You know, we made that video, our song, The Iron Mountain, or The Men Behind the Curtain. We made that video from AI generated images. And it did, it was really cool messing around with it, but you're right, Tim. It's like, but then again, when do I have time to draw that many images or make a video of it myself? So, I think for some things, like for people who are maybe not creative, it gives them the option of doing a lot of, you know, creative things for themselves without having to.
Stop it, though.
Huh?
Like, I think that's what people look at. I think that's where people are very short-sighted, because I can imagine I know this sounds dark or doomeristic or whatever. I didn't see file sharing as a bad thing.
Right.
Like, when file sharing came out, they acted like file sharing destroyed the music industry, but it didn't. All it did was financially damage the major labels. The indie labels were very, very much on board with file sharing, because we all knew as consumers that if we could get a few files for free, and if we liked that track enough, we would find the album, we'd buy it, and it was really good for indie labels. It's not, the AI is not going to stop with creatives, because, you know, right now we're using it to create albums, like album covers and little clips for our channel here, but it's not going to stop there. How long before you can just use the AI to design a better car? How long before Elon Musk can use the AI to figure out a way to get his rockets there and back without killing people? You know, it's going to replace everybody's creative processes. And that's quite literally when they're just going to shove us in the Wally tubes. Because what good are we?
Yeah.
If we can't,
if we can't even create
build rockets, if you don't need us to do anything, then why even keep us around for?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense while we're building a replacement.
That's the point right there.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Especially for these, you know, software engineers and programmers who are actually developing it, because their jobs are going to be the first ones that would be replaced by it. Because the AI can actually, they're already using it to make programs and then install the program on itself to make better programs. Then they you know, so it's you know, like you said, they're really coding their own replacement. I want to show you this real quick. This video from Gab, the social media network, and they have created an AI image creator and movie creator. The image creator is available for free for anyone with a Gab account. You just message the account, and it's okay. It's not up to the par of the ones that we were using on the channel when we were messing around with Stable Diffusion. But the movie maker is pretty good, and it reminds me, Gunship did a video where they used an AI to make the video, and it kind of makes me wonder about Gunship's music. Like, is Gunship AI generated? They kind of sound like what AI generated would be, especially if you listen to some of the lyrics. They're kind of nonsense. So I mean, I wouldn't have a hard time believing that it was AI generated. But let's check this.
Does that change the way you wanted to feel about them?
Do what?
So does that change the way you felt about them?
No, I really don't think they are AI generated, because they made music with like John Carpenter and stuff, and you know, like we were talking about with the practical effects, he was always a fan of kind of the old school way. So I imagine it's kind of I mean, they're 80s throwback, so they're probably doing most of the things that they can the 80s way. But let's check this. Gab's based AI movie maker, Mel is the name of the program. I'm assuming named after Mel Gibson. But yeah, you can make up to like I think 6 scenes in your movie, and can you just tell it what you want it to do, and it does it.
Alvin, I love Boston. What about Boston? I like the idea of building a giant studio of a house and just running with it like they did.
The Winchester Mansion, is that in Boston? No, that's in the West Coast.
Alvin brought up the band Boston, and I said I would really like to build a giant house like Boston did. They turned their entire house into a studio.
Oh, okay. A lot of people really don't like the Boston guitar tone.
Well, their Boston guitar, their guitar tone changed a lot though. They had some pretty heavy tones. They had some very yacht rocky tones at times. So,
their tone sounded a little bit like Digitech to me, especially on stuff on the Peace of Mind album, which was one of my formative albums. Man, me and I used to work on a tobacco farm when I was about 12, 13 years old, and we would go out, and after our day of work on the farm, we would go out, and there was
like Elsa Gate. What are we watching?
That was Gab making a movie that somebody programmed with it. That's one of the user programmed movies. But
yeah, like do you remember? You ever heard of that channel? It's a YouTube channel. It's called it's like Tho 309 or something like that. It's got videos that looked like that. Now I'm wondering if it's like an old YouTube channel. I'll have to look it up. You'll have to find it in like one of those YouTube iceberg videos. It's an old video or an old channel where they made some really weird looking videos. And now watching that, and I'm like, maybe that was just a really old AI video from back in the day, a channel from back in the day, and we just didn't know what it was.
I think you're probably right. You mentioned the Elsa Gate. Those were what a lot of people think that was now. I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but the kind of the prevailing theory that I'm hearing is that, Spider-Man, Elsa, all these different characters that were popular among children, there were bots and AIs that were trying to make viral content, to make money. And so they had the AI create automatically these videos that had these, characters like Spider-Man and Elsa, and it would make an AI generated version of them. And, they would put these things in front of kids, and, you'd sit your kid in front of the YouTube, put on YouTube Kids, and you're watching, I don't know, Peppa Pig. And when Peppa Pig goes off, the next automatic video is something that the bots have paid to have this thing in the rotation, so it pops up in there. The YouTube algorithm starts suggesting it after it becomes popular, and the kids see weird AI generated content that ends up being stuff like, Elsa turning into a spider and like making a big web, and Spider-Man, getting Elsa pregnant and chasing her with needles and all kinds of crazy stuff. Before those channels I think they did finally get removed. But a lot of people were thinking, who in the world is making this crazy content for kids? And a lot of it ended up really, really strange. I'm not going to mention some of the weirder stuff, but
I think it was 309, if I'm not mistaken.
That was Those 309.
The one I was thinking of.
Okay.
It wasn't like malicious though. It was just very, very weird, and sometimes, made you feel uncomfortable. But it wasn't like the Elsa ones, because it wasn't targeted toward kids.
Yeah.
It was just very strange. But the look of those videos now, I'm like, I don't know if that was like highly produced or if that was just back a 10-year-old channel that was using an AI before we knew about it.
Yeah.
Alan's talking about the band Boston. Alvin, are you familiar with, I think it's 10cc. They had that song, I'm Not in Love. I'm not in love. I watched a video on the production level of that song and what it took to get those crazy harmonies, that they had the big swelling vocals in the background. And they ended up using vocal tracks. It was something crazy, like they would use up a whole 12-board channel worth of tapes for one guy going, bump all that to one thing. And they did that over and over again until they had hundreds of this guy's voice. And then they just used this big mixing board, and they would just turn the volume faders up and played the faders like it was a choir, like the actual thing was an instrument.
Right.
And all these vocals were just running on a giant loop that was like 20 seconds long. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was like a loop station instrument where they played the faders like the keys.
A manual loop station.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, the Boston, the Peace of Mind album. When I worked on the tobacco farm, we would, at the end of the day, I would stay with my friend whose parents owned the place, and they had a camper on the property. We'd stay out there and just blast Boston, Aerosmith, and all kinds of good classic rock and some bad classic rock like Poison. But yeah, we had a good time with it, and taught us a lot of good stuff about hard work and making money, and then having a good time with your friends afterwards. But yeah, you were mentioning the Boston, the music swells and stuff. You remember on the Queen album, A Night at the Races, or no, it's A Night at the Opera. There were a couple of those really echo heavy tracks where they would use a lot of, which they did a lot of stuff like that too with the swells and the soundboards. But there were a couple of things where they did some repeats with Freddie's voice, and he would kind of harmonize with himself and make some really cool sounds with it. There was a really long song on there. I can't remember the name. I think it was called the Prophet's Song or something like that. But it's probably like an 8 or 9 minute song.
You ever seen the video of Steven Tyler? I can't remember what album they're recording, but he's going throughout the different bathrooms in this house with a microphone, and they're just getting different vocal parts using different bathroom to get natural reverbs, and they were laying them all together to get these echoey parts.
That's cool.
I'd really like to do stuff like, I know that's people like they get those recording techniques and they see it as outdated, but this is just the hipster in me talking probably, but like I feel like the more technology we have, the less creative of content we put out, because like the more stuff I buy to help me record, it doesn't make me faster. I mean, it might make me faster eventually, but it's not making me better. Like I could do everything that I'm recording right now on cassettes if I really wanted to. And I feel like having to do stuff like run those big machines through the loops tapes, and I feel like that added like such an extra level of creativity to it that it sets your mind into a different plane.
Yeah.
And it would make you be more creative musically too. Whereas now all I have to do is hit, space bar and I'm ready to go. And I don't know, take something out of it for me.
Yeah, I get it. No, and it really is. I really do like the analog stuff. You've seen my pedal board. I use all analog pedals now, and I really like doing stuff like setting a phaser and then playing a lick, and then like setting the delay to just the right time to where it comes right in with the phaser, and then maybe, just find something that fits that exactly right, and then play it over, and then harmonize with it, and you really get into a vibe with it. It's a lot of fun, and it's a lot different than, I've had digital pedal boards and stuff where I could kind of do similar stuff, but it's just not the same as tweaking each individual pedal and having that analog controllability, and just something about it.
I'm not anti-digital.
Oh, I'm not either.
Yeah, like I respect when you see people that have these digital workstations that, because I think some of the argument is people are like, well, you need to get better if you feel like the tech holds you back. I think I'm good enough to where I need to be. It's not an issue of getting better. I feel like simply using lesser stuff just makes me go a little bit harder so I can be a little bit more creative. I think it runs over into the creative process and into your music too. I don't think having all that technology hurts you when you're actually on a good level, and it really does help you.
Yeah.
But I do think it hurts beginners to just give a beginner a delay pedal that they don't have to figure out how to use. It just has a U2 setting on it, because you don't have to learn how to use your gear at that point, and learn how to use your effects is pretty important too.
Yeah, just learning how to program it. Like one. If you've ever watched Indigos perform, I'm sure you have. You've been in the local music scene for a while.
Never seen them fellas play, but I've seen their players.
You never seen him play? Okay. Well, Dan's a really good guitar player, and he had like a real fuzzy tone, and he used a nice analog pedal set, and he would do things like, manually reach down, hold a note, manually reach down, and turn his his phase or his whatever it is, and it manually makes sounds with them, and that was really cool. Like almost using them like DJ effects. He'd leave them on to a certain setting and then crank them up and turn the dials at a certain point to get some nice sounds. And I was always really impressed with that. Thought it was really cool. Oh, what's up, Pumpkin Spice? We were just talking about you the other day. Yeah, I heard Indie Ghost was not playing together anymore, unfortunately. But their album that I don't know, I can't remember the name of it, but I had one of their albums that was really good. I listened to it a lot. Randy and Dan and the gang, those guys really made some good music, and they've put on a great show. Let's see, let me catch up with Alvin here. Alvin's talking about Blue Oyster Cults, Don't Fear the Reaper. Yeah, those loops in there, yeah. Yeah, we were talking about you on the channel. Yeah, we were talking about when we first met you, and you were saying to gird our loins, boys, because the casino is going to change everything, and your words have rang true. I believe as we've talked about on this channel, it's been a long-term development plan for the area, and I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised when the casino came in. I was like, I don't think they're going to approve it. If they would, why wouldn't they just have casinos everywhere? But
did you see the dump has to close? They finally got it passed.
Yeah, they're going to spend like $16 million on it. And have you ever smelled it over there? I never actually smelled it. I've been over to Bristol, and I never have been able to smell it. But
yeah, I mean the area. I've got a trashed rental property over there. I really got to finish. Because I never smelled it either. Like in the downtown area, you really don't notice it. But if you're just there and you're just hanging out at night, it's pretty bad. I understood real quick, like, because it smells almost like sour propane. So like I get it. Like it's I mean, I don't know exactly why that should be Tennessee's problem to fix something Virginia did, but like, I mean, if I was sitting over there every single day and I had to smell sour propane 3/4 of the time, I'd probably be pretty pissed. It's pretty rough.
what part is it in?
It's in the middle of town. Like you don't even notice it there, but it's pretty damn close to us, like right there. Like they've just got it hidden by like trees and like the way they've got the streets routed and stuff. You just don't notice it's there.
You smell it downtown?
Yeah, I can smell it from over there where the train tracks are. So that's pretty close to downtown. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what area you can and can't smell it, but if you can smell it in downtown and Bristol's supposed to be doing this big touristy thing, yeah, they probably need to close that.
Yeah.
That's rough on that. Plus, I mean, it's downtown. Like that there's a bunch of houses right there.
Yeah.
The area I'm talking about is right across from the Slater Center and the police training facility. So
yeah, you pay taxes to have your garbage collected and taken away from your house, so you don't have to smell it or deal with it, and then you have a huge cloud of stink over the whole town. Then
well, ask Moose next time. I'm sure he can smell it over where he's at because he's not too far from that area.
Yeah.
It does. It smells like sour propane.
How'd your songwriting not go?
Oh, it's fun.
Cool. I hate I had to miss it, man. I was really looking forward to it, but daughter's birthday kind of comes first.
I guess he gets to choose children over music.
Yeah.
Silly. But yeah.
Wichita covered the landfill and started harvesting methane off of it. There you go. Hey, Spill, what's up?
Okay. Once you propose that, well, somebody should propose that to Bristol, but
Yeah. They could capture the methane and run a turbine to power the crypto factory, power the casino, and then mine crypto with the GPUs and the machines. What?
I said, I guess that does make sense. That what we're all smelling is the gas. I mean, like if they could filter it in one spot and harvest all that poop fumes for however long the gas or however long the old dump lets it up.
Harvester of poop fumes. All right, let's see.
I don't know what they pour into that landfill, but it does. It smells like sour propane.
I know the smell you're talking about. I've really not noticed it in Bristol. I mean, I've not been to Bristol a lot lately, but I've been, several times. Well, I mean, no more than several, dozens of times in the last couple of years. I've never noticed it. But the pool up at Roan Mountain State Park, the folks up there are pushing to have this sucker reopened. And the state park is saying no, they're not going to do it, and they're going to keep 11 other pools across the state closed, citing cost, age, and declining use. Now, they closed this thing down during COVID, which I thought was the craziest thing because the pool is full of chlorine, which kills viruses. I mean, the likelihood of transmitting a virus in the pool is pretty low. Well, as long as...
I don't know, man. I don't want to be talking shade about people that use public pools, but I mean, I've been to the public pool.
Yeah, do you think about all the stuff they have in there for when people pee in it and all the other stuff, nasty stuff that happens in the pool? They have got the chlorine cranked up. They've got the disinfectant cranked up. Public pools are gross, but yeah, I think they should open the pool. Do what?
And you actually see like crap come off of their trunks where they hadn't washed them or something. Public pools. Like I watched a kid jump in one day and like a level of like clay mud came off of his shorts and he just swam off.
That's why they got the chlorine. His shorts are clean now. Everything's fine.
The whole pool is slightly yellow now, and it's probably your pee mixed with the clay mud.
But according to WCYB, the folks up there in Roan Mountain are the Citizens Club. They're putting up giant banners saying "Save our pool." They've even they got 4,000 signatures, and that's 4 times the town's population. But they're really into it and want to keep that thing open. So here's the solution there. I think if the state doesn't want to keep the thing open, sell the pool to the town. The town, if they want it bad enough, they can have a city council meeting and vote to buy the pool, and they can upkeep the thing. So
It's a state pool?
yeah, it's part of the state park there in Roan Mountain.
Oh, okay. I get you.
So yeah,
Well,
I mean, if Roan Mountain doesn't want to operate the pool anymore, they're going to have to. I mean, you got to figure they're going to destroy it, right? They're not just going to leave an empty pool there, or maybe they will. But rather than doing that and paying to have it demolished and filled in, they could sell it to the town there, make a little money. The town could have the opportunity to buy the pool. Seems like an easy win there. Maybe it's more complicated than I'm making it out to be. I don't know.
How far in the land is the pool from the rest of the state property would be the problem?
Well, right, you actually go through the state park for just a little bit, and then there's the pool, and then you go on down and there's the campground.
Like you have to like little squirrel out this one little section.
Yeah, or lease it to them, whatever. You know, you got a lot of options.
Well, that's not really what they want to go with, probably, is it?
Yeah. Well, nobody asked me, but that's what I'd tell them if they did. Did you guys see the Glock mailbox over in Jonesboro?
No, I don't know what that is.
Let's see, where's he at? Let me find this. It made like a, I don't know, Gawker or something, Ranker or something, I don't know, list of like crazy mailboxes. And, well, now I can't find it, but it looks like a Glock. Hang on, I'll show you.
Scanner through quite hard over the last couple of weeks. Probably should stop, but I don't know what the statistic we could use is. What would you think the statistic of increase in violent crime has been over the last 2 weeks alone?
I don't know. It seems like a lot of it. There was like an armed standoff in Elizabethton, and
the situation. There was a 20 police officer involved, chase or something today involved somewhere near Jonesboro. And I'm starting to wonder how much of this is criminals that are fleeing like the bigger cities and coming here. You know, like how much of okay, let's say, you know, Chicago's a big topic right now, but like how long before those cities start emptying and those criminals just go find someplace else to rob now that Chicago doesn't have a Walmart to rob, you know? So I'm wondering how much of the stuff that we're already seeing as far as advanced police activity isn't people that are newcomers.
Yeah.
Like I'm not accusing the new people.
Well, I'll tell you that a lot of the people that I've seen are, you know, people that have lived here, but you know, I don't know. I'm not discounting your point. I'm just saying a lot of stuff I've seen lately are, you know, natives to the area.
I think I could look it up and find other ones because a lot of the ones that are getting away might not be because there's like a gold car that got away that they had not had like Chicago.
Oh yeah,
tag.
yeah. Now you're right. Yeah.
A car that got away recently. So there's a lot of out of state car things that are like getting the cops involved, but they're just not catching them because I don't know, because they're actual criminals, and this is Carter County. We're not used to actual criminals. We're used to, you know, county scuffles and meth heads. You know, we're not used to this organized crime crap.
Oh, I think it's been around. I think it, you know, just like any other town, it finds its way in and manages to carry on. And you know,
it's like the left's coming though. Like we're used to, like hayseeds and people like you and me running crime. You know, even though I've never run crime. Just imagine me as a criminal. You know, that's the kind of criminal we would have around here versus like Chicago is a town that was founded on crime. You know, they can set. I see all the YouTube comments blaming all these riots and stuff on black people. Man, crime in Chicago has been a staple since the Irish ran it, so they can blame it on black people all they want to. That city has had problems since the Irish and the Italians brought crime to that city. They're just living an old Chicago pastime with this crime lifestyle. And I'm just wondering how long before that crime lifestyle starts leaking out of the cities.
Yeah,
And once you
because
get
it
that
is.
kind of crime, yeah, that's different.
It
That's
is a different kind of crime too, because it's more widespread and more
acceptable.
yeah, socially acceptable. Yeah, they don't think anything of it.
It's okay to do this because what are you talking about? They need to eat too. And it's like, I don't think you understand what your logic is. You're setting a precedent where the toughest man survives, and you ain't the toughest person. How long before somebody takes your lollipop?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, yeah, you really shouldn't let teenagers run your society. I mean, probably not a good idea. Yeah, there's a reason Capone used to lay up JC because apparently, yeah, it was a getaway, and not only that, he could buy moonshine coming out of the Smoky Mountain area, probably Popcorn Sutton's moonshine. Popcorn Sutton was what's that?
At least from that family.
Yeah.
Was he around here? I thought he was up here.
No, he's out in Newport, Tennessee. I actually went down and met his wife and played a show at the Popcorn Sutton Festival, and you know, met some of the guys from what's that show? I don't know. I don't watch it, but some of these old guys that make moonshine and wear overalls on. I think the guy's name was JB or JD. Hung out with that guy and drank some moonshine down there with you know the folks that used to know Popcorn Sutton. I don't know not Popcorn Sutton. He wouldn't have been old enough to run Capone, but Bondurants. Yeah, there you go. Buying Bondurant stock out of VA. Yeah, you're right. Popcorn Sutton wouldn't been old enough for Capone to buy from. He was buying Bondurant stock out of Virginia. Alvin says, okay.
Bondurant has to be a French name, right?
I don't know.
Sounds French.
But they say that a lot of the reason that nobody talks about, there's really no evidence. There's a lot of stories and anecdotes about Capone being in Johnson City. Is a lot of people who actually would have proof or know that he was there made a lot of money off of Capone being there, and they would not want people to know that their family name had been associated with bootlegging during Prohibition. They say that's where a lot of the big money in Johnson City got to be big money, is during that time. And we went over on one of our episodes. I can't remember. I think we called it Weird Al Capone or something like that. But we were talking about how Weird Al had how they had interviewed a few people, but nobody really wanted to give any names. And the press, the Johnson City press a few people on the press tried to interview a lot of these people that had these stories, but they never could get any names. They would do it anonymously, and they couldn't really get anything concrete. And that's why the people who were not giving any names said they weren't giving them, because these families didn't want their names associated with it. Forrest Bondurant.
Interesting.
What's that?
Isn't that interesting that in America they had that sort of it's like not the same in other places. I guess what I'd like to compare it to would be like if you go to the town where was it El Chapo lived, like they had all these like little plain ornaments all over like the city representing that he had really gifted this city and that they were supporting of it and stuff. And I just thought I guess the crime would be different down there because he can do whatever he wants to, and they kind of had to keep it secret up here. So I guess that makes sense. Just trying to make a comparison of when crime lords are sort of openly accepted versus when they're not, but it's not a good comparison.
Well, I guess what you were to back to your point on that though is it was founded on crime. It was known for its crime after the days of Capone, and like you said, it's well known for it, and it's become more accepted. But this is like spreading. It was only a group, it was gangsters running crimes, and then you might have kids like busting out windows every now and then, or shoplifting, or but never large mobs of children or teenagers from all over the city. But
you think institutionalization is coming? That's something that's been popping in my head. Like I remember I don't remember. We learned in psychology that in the early 70s, I want to say it was like 72 or somewhere in there, 72, 76, somewhere, they did that deinstitutionalization where they shut down all the government-funded asylums and just opened the floodgates and let all these people into the streets, and it just created a situation pretty similar to what we're going through now, where people. Don't you think it's funny that there's a Getz that they're talking about in Congress, and Bernie Getz was the guy that started all the gun violence in New York? That name pops up,
Bernie Getz was the subway vigilante, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The guy who was tired of getting robbed, so he started shooting the dudes that were robbing people.
He said he shot some teenagers. Well, they were younger. They were younger guys, but I'm just wondering, we went through deinstitutionalization. Is it possible, just possible, that we go through a reinstitutionalization? Because there's so many crazy people out there. I mean, dude, I don't want to. I'm just going to say this, and I won't give any information because I feel bad for knowing this information because I can't do anything with it. But I actually know of a girl that I knew very well, first name basis. This is why this is so creepy. I've watched her go from being pretty normal, musician type, not completely normal, being from a girl. Dude, she's running around. She's homeless now, and she did it to herself. She's homeless. She thinks she's the granddaughter of Bob Dylan.
Yeah, somebody like that should they should.
But what do you do?
What is the word? They should be available. That when they closed down the institution, they went largely to home health care or in-home supported living. And I can speak to this because I actually worked in this field for 19 years. But the effect of that was a lot better.
I'm aware but I don't know what the solution on the street is.
But what I was going to say is, unless people are developmentally disabled and mentally ill, it's kind of hard for them to get placement in these places. So the institutions closed, and a lot of these institutions were filled with people who were developmentally disabled and mentally ill. And when they combined all these together, it was a huge place. And it's not, and I'm not making excuses for these people at all, but a lot of the time you would have in these institutions, I'm just giving an explanation for why I think one reason things that were as bad as they were is they would send 3 to 5 untrained people, or largely untrained, and maybe 1 or 2 of them was trained, onto the floor with 100 people who, a certain number of which, maybe between 5 and 20, were violent, and at any time you could have violence erupt. And a lot of time these people back in, even in the 80s and 90s, where they had these large groups of mentally unwell people and only 3 to 5 partially or barely trained people to take care of them, what they did, they actually gave them a stick with a rubber ball on it and a big high pressure hose. And that was their option when things started getting violent and that got out of their control. And it started spreading to the other people in there because these people are all mentally unwell, and these people were incapable of controlling the situation. So they would just start whacking people in the head with those rubber sticks and spraying them with the fire hose when things started breaking out. And that was the standard. So you can only imagine how bad things could have been when you had somebody in there who was a violent individual themselves working as a staff in the place. And you had a lot of really bad abuse and a lot of really bad situations for everybody involved in there. So when they closed them down, they moved a lot of those folks. They got a big settlement and moved them into community homes, and the state pays for their homes. And it's actually less expensive to pay for the homes and support staff in the homes than it was to run the big institutions. But the thing is, there are so many regular mentally ill people who would normally have been institutionalized. They don't have those kind of places, so a lot of those people end up on the streets and until they become violent. And if they're not violent, then there's no help for them either way. So I don't know what the solution is, but it's
the same people is one of my issues with like these aren't the same kind of people. And I know that the institutions are worse than prisons. My issue is where do you put them? Like, because right now they're attacking people on the streets.
If somebody's violently mentally ill, I think they should be put in some sort of mental hospital. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what you do with these people because, like, because it is violent. Because what happens is you take someone who is, we'll say, developmentally regressed or whatever word you want to use for it, we'll use that. Well, if you get that person and you put them into the world and they can't ever get like a foothold on how to get their life going, they slowly turn violent. Because, like, I
the
know
frustration builds until it comes out in a violent outburst.
Hunger alone will make you go violent, and I'm just saying that you've got, dude. I hate to be a doomer about this subject. I think the amount of mental illness that's coming down the generational pipeline is going to stagger most people when it finally hits. Because mental illness is not just something that, like, you turn 18, you're just you're crazy one day, and I'm going to go nuts. It's a scaffolding thing that can hit at 25, 30. You can get over it. There's always variables, and I really think that the quality of mental illness is what I'm talking about. Like, man, I've met the completely harmless homeless people. I even tried to give a sandwich to a dude one day, and he almost didn't want to take it because he said, "I've already eaten. I would feel guilty." And I was like, "Dude, I'm not going to eat this. You should go and eat it later." You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's different levels of like of mentally ill people. I'm not blaming them. I'm saying that, like, at what level do you get where you just allow people to be this way, and we just keep they're attacking? You know what happens when they're attacking people, and you just keep saying, well, they can't help it. And I just don't see how you can have a functioning society where you at some point can just allow a whole group of people to get a pass and just keep acting like lunatics.
I think that you're absolutely right that you can't let that pass. I mean, if someone is disrupting the society, then the society has to do something to prevent that from happening and to help the person, because obviously somebody's, got bad problems if they're violently attacking people in the middle of the streets unprovoked. Okay, Bob Pumpkin Spice, I guess, is saying no about the institutions, and Alvin says the institutions were brutal places, worse than prisons. Yeah, they could be really bad. And the problem's a lack of health care, Pumpkin Spice says, and money. I don't know, man. There's so much money in health care, but like if you look at a chart of it, all that money goes to administrators. Like, you adjust it for inflation, physicians make roughly the same that they've made for a long time. But the cost of healthcare has increased exponentially, and most of that has gone to the cost of administrators and insurance and all these different places that have their hand in the pot. And when you go to the hospital and your bill ends up being $80,000, that's because all these other people have their hand in there, making, like, some guys getting paid for making sure that the hospital get paid, and so on and so forth. Spill says, everyone is crazy except me and thee. I often wonder about thee. And Pumpkin Spice says, no wonder.
I would like to bring up before going on that, like, I'm not trying to bring up knowing a girl that went crazy and thinks Bob Dylan's her granddad. Like the reason that's such a weird example to me is because I feel like she's a prime example of what we're talking about, the habilitation things, because she can't go home because she is having problems with, like, she can't live with her parents. She's having issues with them because, they're not her parents. They're clones or something because Bob Dylan's her dad or whatever.
Right.
And it is taking everything in my power. It really is, to not just use the GPS location she's tagged on all of her Instagram posts to go find her and try to help her. But I can't because she's delusional. If I go try to help her, she'll attack me and accuse me of rape. She's doing it to everyone.
You can't appeal to reason with somebody who's delusional.
Like, I literally can't go help this person that I personally know who has lost her absolute ever-loving mind. I can't go give her food because if I go give her food, she'll literally accuse me of raping her. She's done it to a bunch of people already. Yeah. It's like, if you just keep copy and pasting this person over and over again, there's nothing malicious behind it. She's honestly lost her shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how to fix that. And I don't know how to fix that times 250,000.
Yeah.
So that's what's coming down the pipeline.
Yep. No, I see what you're saying. But the modern mental health care hospitals, though, are a lot better facilities. They're a lot better staffed and a lot better funded than the ones were back in the days. They spent all the money on the building back in the day. They built these big, elaborate marble and walnut buildings. Like, if you look at some of the old mental institutions, but then they were, what's that?
they're dumb looking, like they're over the top. It's like, why did you spend this much money? Like the office spaces and stuff look like these giant vaulted ceilings with big fireplaces
Yeah.
and stuff. And it's like, why'd you spend this much money on a crazy place? You know, I kind of think maybe they didn't intend for it to go so dark. They thought maybe it was going to be a good place at some point. That's why they spent so much money making it look like a church.
Yeah, but then they were pretty much done spending money on it, I guess. Let's see here. Let's catch up on these chats here. Spunkin says it's no wonder. Spill says she's heard Earth is the universe's insane asylum, and she's starting to agree with it. Well, yeah, I can see that. You ever see that South Park where they had Earth, the reality show?
No.
It was like the aliens were putting the Earth. They found out that the Earth was actually a reality show put on by an alien race, and they'd take people from all different, or species from all different planets, and just dropped them on Earth and put them in front of the camera to see what would happen. Pumpkin says prison planet spill, and or Alvin said that, and Pumpkin said early intervention is key. Don't wait till they're totally broken. Yeah, that's unfortunately the way that happens a lot of times. But sometimes with this mental illness, it will just like Tim said, it will really come out of nowhere. It'll start in the teens, and then gradually come on until maybe right before things become where a person loses control. The folks around them will start to notice a difference, but by the time they've noticed that something is wrong, it's too late. But then a lot of it is like there's so much of a stigma on medication, and I agree with that, because a lot of medication is unduly given to people. Like somebody who's dealing with a loss in their life may come off depressed, but they're not able to talk about how they're depressed because of the loss that they just had in their life. They just say, "Oh, so doc, something's wrong." So the doctor gives them a antidepressant medication, and then they end up going manic, and then the doctor says, "Oh, I thought you were depressed, but you're actually bipolar, so let's give you lithium," and it ends up into a spiral of more and more drugs. And I've seen this happen a lot, until this person really is out of control. Like they were dealing with normal human emotions that they needed maybe therapy or needed somebody to help them cope with, but rather than that, they had a pharmaceutical intervention that was inappropriate for them. But it's the same time, like, while I'm a critic of that, there are some people that I've seen who are genuinely psychotic, and the only way to control it is with strong psychotherapeutic drugs, and that's the only thing that works for these people. So it's a really fine line to walk, and if somebody doesn't want to take the drugs, you can't make them. So let's look here. But what I was getting at is mostly the people who actually need the drugs are the less likely to actually seek help for it, whereas people who maybe don't need drugs are more likely to actually seek help. Let's see. Pumpkin says, or Spill says, her son works at the sheriff's in Mendocino County, and he said they're homeless babysitters. Yeah, we got a lot of homeless folks up here. I was talking with some people, and they were advocating, giving the homeless housing, just giving them a house. And my whole thing was like, man, I appreciate where you're coming from, but a homeless person is they're not able to take care of themselves. If you just give them a house, you're not really helping them. I mean, you might be making, I guess if somebody is hopelessly unable to care for themselves in any way, then I could see paying for them. But a lot of people are not necessarily even mentally ill to the point where they can't do for themselves. So I don't know what you really do to that, but I just don't think just giving everybody a house is a solution. For a lot of reasons. It's kind of like the whole, you teach a man to fish, or you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Well, then you're just going to have to keep feeding him, which with crazy people, when does that end? With the mentally ill, it's not like they're ever going to be unmentally ill. So to Tim's point, why not have a place staffed with specialists and trained to deal with these kind of things, especially if we could move on from the institutions of the past. We did see, we have seen a large, spike in mentally ill instances of mentally ill folks having episodes in public. A lot of these people don't have anywhere to go. Consistent counseling can go a long way. You're right, Pumpkin Spice, because a lot of people really do need, a lot of people that are labeled as mentally ill, like I said, maybe you just have, you could be mentally ill, or maybe you have a problem dealing with your anger and expressing your anger unhealthily. And so a psychotherapist or a counselor can help you learn coping mechanisms and strategies to deal with that anger healthily, rather than unleashing it on people in a harmful way. So there are things that can be done for a lot of people like that before they go down too far down that path. And sometimes medication can be a part of it too. But I really think our mental health system is overwhelmed, inefficient, and basically just functioning on the level of like the bare minimum holding things together.
Yeah, I think it won't be. I don't know. I think that's my theory. I think some form of a institutionalization is coming. It might not be a facility, but I do think it'll be some sort of a increase in you need to stay at home sort of crazy checks. Like with bounds on them, not just like we're going to pay you to stay at home. We're going to pay you with the whole thing of you can't leave the house on certain hours or something.
Yeah.
That's just a theory, but I mean, already got so many people that don't want to leave the house anyway. I think people would really.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably is more likely what's going to happen in the institution. Institution is more for emergency. So the hospitals now are more for emergency situations, and then if you can set up placement with people in their own homes, to where they have staff to, if there's somebody who requires 24/7 support, then.
They won't get it. They'll get like probably the Zoom call sort of situation is what they'll get. Man, a lot of these people that I'm talking about have issues with socialization because they grew up online, and it's just. Man, do you remember your first job?
Yeah.
Like I remember my first job. I was really awkward, and it wasn't because I hadn't been around people. It was mostly because I hadn't used like a fry cook machine. I hadn't used like deep fryers and stuff. So any element that you're thrown into is always new. Can you imagine getting your first job at like a Wendy's and you've never spoken to another human being that wasn't your mother before? As weird as that sounds, you got a lot of those kids that are coming down the pipeline that are, borderline homeschooled,
Let's catch up on the chat here. We missed quite a bit here. The things that go on are so ridiculous, it's usually drug-based, Bill says. Yeah, and it is. And a lot of times drugs, are folks trying to self-medicate, like Pumpkin Spice says, because they don't have access to proper care. And rehabilitative care instead of a punitive monkey racket is a start. It doesn't work unless they want help. Now, that's true. I'll tell you, there's a lot of people who don't want help, and how do you make them accept help? How do you take somebody who doesn't want to go to therapy? There's a lot of people who don't want therapy. They will not talk to a therapist, and they don't want to take medication. So what do you do about that? Society is the cause more times than not. Yeah, I mean, you're right. We've created a society where we basically don't need people for a lot of things anymore. So a lot of people, when they can't find their place in this world, they feel useless. And then when bad things happen to them, and it can really, throw them for a loop. Hey, see you, Alvin, man. I'm glad to have you with us, man. Let's see. Spill says you think simpler solutions would work, but now things are overcomplicated. Yeah, Spill's talking about the justice system, and yeah, you get into the justice system and the way that works with when people get in trouble with the law, and a lot of people are put through the mental health system that don't even need it. Like I give you an example, we were talking about how on the live stream last Wednesday, I was talking about how somebody being labeled mentally ill alone is not reason to deny them a right to defend themselves and their family with a firearm. And I was given, Tim was giving me a little bit of a hard time, but the thing is, like, that person has the right to defend themselves too, and the charge of mental illness is so easily thrown around. Like, I have a friend who was in a child custody dispute, and he was given his child spoke to the babysitter and said that the child had been abused at the hand of somebody in the mother's home. And because the guy I know, he reported this, the babysitter reported it, and they went into to deal with the Child Protective Services over it. But in explaining what had happened, the gentleman I know mentioned that the person who was watching the child was gay, and then he was immediately told that, well, just because he's gay doesn't mean that he abused your child, and you need to, and gave him a lecture on how gay people are just like everybody else, and then said he was mentally ill and needed counseling for homophobia if he wanted to see his child anymore, as if, by merit of being gay, someone is incapable of abusing a child. So this person is not homophobic either. He was just it just came up in the story, and when he was telling the people. But anyway, that was an example. You get a red flag law or something like that. Suddenly, a guy like that is unable to defend himself. So that's where I was getting around to that, Tim. With so the reason I bring it up tonight is who decides what is mentally ill enough to be forced to take treatment, unless if somebody's violent, I can see it, but there's a lot of repercussions from deciding people are mentally ill and deciding what to do with them when they've never harmed anybody or given threatened anybody or anything like that.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, I get I don't mean like when it's some injustice sort of thing, like where somebody gets an unfair shake or whatever. But I mean, like, I really just don't think that if you have a history of attacking people, I don't think you get to own a gun.
Well, I agree.
You're the one that's attacking people. Yeah. They're the ones having to defend themselves. At that point, they shouldn't have to defend themselves anymore. That's
absolutely
my point.
No, I agree with that.
But they need to have overstepping bounds, where if like someone is using language that a particular party or something finds disagreeable, but the idea that, and I'm not saying this is your point, this is just my stance, because I do feel like some people really have a no infringement is what they keep saying, shall not infringe. They put big type, and it's like, yes, but what if they're a rapist, murderer? That person,
absolutely. And Pumpkin says a court would decide it, and that's my whole point, is that a court would have to decide that you can't just label somebody mentally ill and decide they can't defend themselves or have their rights stripped of them. And it goes the same way with defense as medication and all these other things. If the court decides, does not that you always agree with the court, and the court's not always perfect, but I believe it's the best way we've got to determine if somebody should have their rights stripped of them. And we have human rights committees here in Tennessee who decide what they get together and meet on a case-by-case basis and have to get together to decide what is appropriate for restriction of rights if someone has shown themselves to be a danger to the community or themselves. The person you mentioned would have to defend their rights. Yeah, you're right, Spill, or Pumpkin. That's but my whole point in bringing it up is Governor Lee was suggesting that this could possibly be bypassed in order to prevent harm to people. And my whole point was it could be easily abused and would not protect people's rights. When a court proceeding would be the proper thing to do, and why would you want to bypass that? If you need to speed up the court proceeding, fine, but why bypass it and do it on the order of one person?
I guess I'd put into the law whatever the law says, because I haven't read it. I would call it something along the lines of a Randy Stair law.
There's been no specifics released on it.
Yeah, because like that is one of those individuals, like very way after Columbine. This has been many years that we've had we've had mass shootings and stuff, and he literally had all the red flags, like including going and buying a large amount of guns, an insane amount of ammo, putting up videos online of him shooting stuff, and doing updated reports on his own YouTube channel about what day he was going to go shoot up the grocery store that he was going to go do. Like there was
Yeah,
all these
anything
red
like
flags.
that immediately, that's a threat of violence. That's actionable. Yeah. You're supposed to take
That's what I'm saying. But like, if nobody, there was everything in the world was available to stop him, but it's just that all the people that were watching him didn't think he was serious. His parents had no clue any of this stuff was going on, and I think that's kind of where it stair-steps its way back. Is like, now we got a whole generation of people without parents, and there's nobody that's going to step them. So now we're dependent on the federal government to keep all these people in line, and that's not a good replacement for mom and dad. In fact, it's not a replacement at all. You know,
my a friend of mine, he's a Gen X gentleman. He sent me a story about something where a teenager had done something really, really stupid, and we kind of came down to like, these kids are dumb, but they're raised by, and their parents were just as dumb as they are, but at least their parents were raised by people who had the sense to look out for them. So like so many of these kids now are not being raised by parents with the sense to look out for them. So they end up doing these TikTok challenges that harm themselves and things like that.
yeah, it's well, I mean, I don't want to. I guess I can rag on millennials since I'm one of them, but it's like the idea that we were the ones that started this whole get attention at any cost, and now we're blaming Gen Z for getting attention at any cost.
Yeah.
We're just mad because it's a better platform. You know, we had to use YouTube and Zanga and MySpace, and they have TikTok. We're mad at them because we were doing Jackass before Jackass did it. Jackass and those guys wouldn't have done that and made all that money if every group of kids in every county school didn't have one group of kids that was running buggies up over top of the curbs, all the cars and stuff. So people are nuts. So it's not like we should really rag on Z for acting crazy. It's just, we really got to start raising our own kids as someone who doesn't have any kids.
Puckett says ignoring all the red flags has resulted in a lot of tragedies, incompetent enforcement. And Spill says if only one person in the house is working, bills are about impossible. Got to have both working, and then you end up with the TV raising the kids, or now the YouTube and the TikTok raising the kids. And I'll tell you what, like my daughter's 12, and I don't let her have a phone, and she's so mad at me about it. But all her friends have phones. She sees all this crap at school. It's like it's only so much you can insulate your kid from it when the rest of society is all participating in it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can insulate.
I don't think you can. But you can say this is not appropriate behavior, and we're not really going to do that here.
Well,
and that's about all you can do.
So my dad would not have let us have a phone in the house if it was raised in modern times.
Yeah.
But I think what would have been more effective would be if I was able to have one, but was shown how to use it more responsibly, maybe, because the whole prohibition thing.
Yeah. Well, see, to be honest, and my daughter, like I said, she's
probably going to find a phone at some point.
Yeah. Well, dude, she's mad at me about it, but I've not completely banned her from a phone. I've told her I've got to have a certain level of responsibility exhibited before I decide she's able to have one, and she hasn't shown that to me yet.
She's got a pile of iPhones under her pillow.
Probably. Get her a BlackBerry text call, no internet. Yeah, that's well, I mean, we got a house phone that's pretty much her phone that she can call and text from, but just doesn't have one that she can take with her and stuff. And again, it's a certain level of responsibility is necessary, and she'll get there. But for right now, it's just I wouldn't be a good parent if I gave her access to that portal unfiltered, in some way or another. But let's see. And my son, I got to not give him access to the lawnmower. He broke my lawnmower.
Focus Spouse says she has a burner phone. That's exactly what I thought. First thing was you're trying to keep a cell phone away from a 12-year-old girl.
Probably.
She's got 3 of them.
Probably. No, she uses her friend's phone. Like I said, I'd get her one if she'll show the appropriate responsibility. And I wouldn't be surprised if she has a burner. She's had friends, even friends' parents, give her a burner phone before.
I mean, is it more about the idea of the information, or is it more about the idea of you're afraid she's going to lose the phone?
Oh no, it's immaturity for the connectivity to the outside world that the phone brings. It's not that I care that she talks to her friends or anything like that. I don't think a lot of these kids understand the consequences of recording all their behaviors and putting them all online for the whole world to see, and not giving their identities out for everybody, all that stuff. So once she's capable of understanding how important that is, then I'll be more open to the idea. Like I said, I don't care for her to contact her friends. Thanks, Pumpkin. I'm trying.
It's just, and I'm not against your judgment to do that. It's just like I'm sitting there thinking from my perspective of like, of how do you do that as a parent? Because in my mind, I'm looking at the internet and I'm like, dude, if I promise you, and there's like 150 other dimensions where I probably found the internet way too early and got sex trafficked or something because I was dumb as shit when I was younger and I was pretty small. So, I mean, there's 100 dimensions out there where something really bad happened to me because I got a hold of the internet too early.
Right.
And I just really, I was an idiot. So, yeah. I mean, I really don't know exactly how much damage the internet really has done to people.
Well, it's like I said, of course we have the internet in the house and stuff, but I just want to limit her ability to share herself on the internet, until she is ready to know what all that entails. But anyway, yeah, it's a minefield out there for people raising kids these days, as it always has been. So we can't repeat these cycles, as we say, like Tim opened the show talking about. But let's see. I think we're about done tonight. It's 11:23. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready for bed. I got an early morning in the morning, so I appreciate you joining us, Bill, Pumpkin Spice, Alvin. Glad to have you back, Pumpkin Spice. It's nice when you jump in. And we'll see y'all on Sunday night. And I'm working on this Agora stuff that Alvin talked about. So me and Alvin are going to have to get together on this, and we're going to talk about building communities that will sustain, not running from technology, but being able to make it only an advantage in your life, not something necessary, not something that you depend on, that you can work with others in the community to find a way to exist alongside modern society without being totally dependent on it. So we'll get into that a little bit more. I'm not sure if we'll do it this Sunday or not. It's going to be a big show, so I want to make sure I do it right. And we'll have a good topic this Sunday to get into. But I appreciate y'all joining us. And we're always here Sunday and Wednesday at 10 p.m. And don't forget to like the video. See y'all.